You just downloaded the show that was nominated Best Entertainment Podcast of 2013, only to be beaten by The Walking Dead.
I ain't going nowhere, Survivor's my game, Spencer is my name. I ain't going nowhere, Spencer is my name.
Hey everybody, this is Survivor Talk with D&D. I'm Dwayne.
And I'm David.
And we're just two best friends talking about the show we love, Survivor. Tonight we have a special guest on with us. He's always on with us, well, a lot of the time, for the Baker's 15. Tonight, no Baker's 15. Just have Andy Baker on to talk feedback with us. Say hello, Andy Baker.
Hey everybody, I figured I'd break out the tinfoil buff tonight and see if we can't hatch some conspiracy theories. I don't have any to go on right now, but I imagine by the time we're done, we'll have a few.
Yeah, Andy's got the old tinfoil hat going. Did you see that, David?
I think he's already got conspiracy theories ready.
Yeah.
He's just going to wait for the proper time to inject them into tonight's chat.
That's right. So that, my friends, is what we're going to be doing tonight. Listener feedback show. But we want to say together, all three, 1, 2, 3. Happy Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
Yeah, that worked really well.
Well, your counting leaves a little to be desired. 1, 2, 3. Here we go.
Happy Mother's Day.
Every time I usually say mother, there's another word after it, but, you know.
Oh!
Mother dear. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Mother love.
Yeah. Hey, y'all, go to our website. There's this buff logo, and see all these nice buffs I have behind me? If you want one of these, go to Buff Inc., and you can get there by our website. Just one more thing. We would really like to ask you if you would consider supporting D&D. And if you would, go to survivortalkwithdnd.com/support, become a patron, and you can even get nice thank you gifts like a wallpaper for your computer or a ringtone of one of my song parodies or live on our show if you want to. But I want to call my mama. How about you, David?
Sure.
Okay, we'll call yours first. Now, you can't talk a long time, David.
Okay.
No, Mommy,
Once I tell her we're on the air, she won't want to talk very long.
All right, so here we go. Let's see if I can get this.
The important question, is she a Survivor fan?
No, not at all.
Nice. This ought to be great. All right, let's see how I can do this. Let's see. Copy, since I'm doing this unprepared. Welcome to Survivor Talk with D&D. Oh, great.
Mother's Day special.
All right.
No,
Hope I didn't give it away with that.
I want that to be my ringtone. Simply
Yes.
you going.
All right, it is ringing. Everybody be quiet except for David. Hopefully she can hear you. Oh, I don't think she's going to be able to hear you. I'm going to have to talk for you.
You can't do that.
Oh, it ended anyway. I'll just
Okay, call yours.
I wasn't thinking that they wouldn't be able to hear you because the speaker's on my phone.
So is your mom a Survivor fan, Dwayne?
No, not at all. I mean,
she's calling me on my cell phone right now.
Oh, wondering who it is trying to call her. Yeah, well. All right, here we go. Let's see. Mom. Yes. All right. I'll call the home. My dad might answer. That'd be really funny if my dad answered. All right. Here we go. You can hear it ringing. I feel like David Letterman.
Oh,
Hello, who is this?
who do you think it is?
This is Dwayne Stroud from Survivor Talk with D&D. You're on live.
Oh, don't tell me that, Dwayne.
Get my mom on the phone. We're going to wish her Happy Mother's Day live.
Well, I can't because it's live. I can't tell you where she is.
Oh.
That's outstanding.
All right. Well, tell her that.
She's taking a bath.
Oh, okay. Well, tell her that I called her on the podcast to wish her Happy Mother's Day, and she wasn't there to take it, so I'm hurt.
All right.
All right.
Get over it.
So, Dad, do you think Survivor is fixed?
Do I what?
Do you think Survivor's fixed?
Well, absolutely. The whole thing's choreographed.
Ask him if he can hear us.
Well, it is.
Hey, can you hear David whenever he speaks, or just me?
I don't know. Have him speak.
Speak,
Hey,
David.
hey, Mr. Stroud, how are you?
No,
Yep.
he can't hear you, David.
No, I can't hear him.
All right, bye, Dad. Love you.
I love you too.
All right,
Bye.
bye. Google has got to come up with a way for us to make a phone call while we're on air. If you're on a regular Google Hangout, you can add a phone call. You can add a person via phone, but you can't do it on a Google Hangout live on air. I don't know why. All right, let's get to our listener feedback. First, we have Will the Giant Ninja from Wonder Lake.
You know, he's going to make such a donation that you're going to have to make a parody for him.
Well, he ought to make a donation. He makes $250 an hour as a lawyer.
He wins the right case, and we're going to
downloads our show for free. Come on, dude. Come on. All right, what's up, guys? It's Will from Wonder Lake again, a.k.a. the Giant Ninja. So remember last week when I told you that my time had gotten away from me and that I'd do better this week? Well, I lied, because I didn't do better this week. Between training all weekend and Mother's Day today, I just never got to writing my feedback. Better late than never, though, right? Yeah, he was an hour late, my friends. You know how when you're waiting at the courtroom and your lawyer doesn't show up because he's out at a really expensive restaurant, you know, with a higher-paying client?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what happened. All right. So we're down to 5, and it's really anybody's game. So I'm going to revisit my power rankings again and tell you why each person can and can't win. I invite D&D, and by the way, you also invite Andy, to supplement my arguments as needed. Have I missed any good arguments for or against anybody? Number 5, the tiny ninja. That would be Woo. Why he will win. Okay. The fact that he has anything after this is astonishing to me. Woo cannot win. All right. Woo has played the... No, Will. Okay. Woo has played the best social game of any player left. Should we even read anymore? I mean, does this...
Well, can we talk about what Andy brings up real well in his column this week about the final number of castaways? Are we allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, Will won't mind. Go for it. Oh, you mean that there's rumor that there might be 2 instead of 3?
Yeah, and I mean, there's going to be 4 in the finale. And like Andy pointed out, they've mentioned final 3, final 2, and they wouldn't even tempt us with that unless there's a possibility that it will be a final 2.
Right.
And to me, all this paragraph needed was Woo wins if he wins challenges and takes Cass. That's all I need to say.
Yeah, well, and I mean, to give Will some credit here, he's going to have to stretch with some of them. If he's going to give pros and cons for all of them, I mean, coming up with a con for why Spencer wouldn't win, the only thing you can say is he doesn't get there.
Right. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Before we analyze Will's feedback, let's read it.
Oh, no, we don't need testimony before we give a verdict.
Although I have to say, just from the beginning, he loses some credibility because he's a giant ninja, and I think that undercuts your ninja abilities being a giant.
I don't know. I've seen his video. He's
But if you saw him in the video, he wasn't a very good ninja.
Okay.
Oh, I did not say that, Will. That was David.
He's going to get me back next week. He's already told me.
All right. Woo has played the best social game of any player left. Oh, boy. He hasn't alienated anyone, and everyone seems to love him. He's also one of the best challenge competitors left. If he's there at the end, he can and should play to his strengths. He needs to tell the jury that they want to give him the money, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with voting for the player you want to see win. Woo's chances at winning are directly linked, to the jury. Are they bitter? If they are, they won't vote for Tony or Trish or Cass, and Woo's the one who stands to benefit from that. And to his benefit, Sarah, Morgan, LJ, and Jeffra could all be bitter. That's a major head start. Why he won't win. Woo has played the worst strategic game of any player left. Whether fair or not, he'll be seen by the jury as a follower. He helped to oust LJ and Jeffra, turning on his alliance twice. Those were big moves, but they weren't his moves. They were Tony's. Woo just went along with it. Juries historically don't reward followers. think Natalie Tenorelli. Even if the jury is bitter, they will find folks to vote other than Wu because they don't respect him.
But the jury did reward Natalie.
Yeah,
They gave her the win.
Well, no, he was talking about Natalie Tenorelli, who was lost to Boston Rob.
Oh.
David.
Well, I don't know the last names.
All right, so shall we move on to Chaos Cast?
Should we break them down one by one as he goes through them, or should we listen to all that he has
Go for
to
it,
say?
Andy. Go for it.
To me, I know he's stretching with the the Wu winning thing, but I mean, he has a point in that. This is something I wrote about in the column. But if you have a super bitter jury, Wu could be a palatable option if they are super bitter. I don't think they're going to be that bitter,
Right.
but that also depends on something I wrote about last week, who the jury foreperson is going to be. Who is going to be the last few members, but over the next couple of eliminations, Tasha right now is establishing the tone, and if Spencer goes in next, what is he saying? What is he vouching for? Who does he think should win? And he could make them bitter, or he could make them emphasize strategy. And I think Wu is likable enough if you sat next to somebody who ends up being truly, if Tony goes nuts for the next few episodes, or Trish goes crazy, maybe Wu seems nice in comparison. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, it's not. There's always a chance.
I think it's more likely though that if Spencer's bitter, it would be probably at Wu for hiding behind Tony and all the votes and never really making a decision on his own. But Spencer's got to know that nobody wants to take Spencer to the final.
Yeah. What if you're Spencer, and Wu is sitting next to Cass? Who do you push? Who do you push the jury to vote for?
I vote for Cass.
I don't think you can push the people to vote for Cass because they don't like her personally, but they haven't really seen or had a chance to respect the game that she's played. She's played a very strategic game in my mind, whether it's always worked or not. But he's going to talk about Cass next, she changed the face of this game at the merge.
No one's a bigger Cass supporter than I am, as I said in this week's column. If you just take what she said over the last few episodes, she's really sharp. She understands the game, and she made some very self-motivated moves, and they were moves that got her further in the game. But she's just the tone of how she delivers those messages makes us. It rubs people the wrong way, which is really. I mean, if Cass is sitting next to Wu in a final two, who wins? Morgan hates her. Sarah can't stand her. There's 2 votes in his pocket right up front. I mean, Cass, seemingly was going to flip over with Spencer and then didn't do it. Does he hold that against her? It's not. I mean, he could Fabio it. Wu could if he's sitting next to Cass.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I think he could.
I just don't think Cass and Wu are going to be a final 2, so we won't have to worry about it.
Well, she turned on everybody at the jury except for LJ and Jeffra. I mean, she turned on everybody else and left that whole tribe out to dry. So, but I like the fact that she's smart enough to see that Tony's building a resume and he has to be my number 1 target right now. Yep. He is building too much of a strategic resume and he's got to go. So I guess we should move on to number 4.
Yes, sure. Chaos Cass. Why she will win. Cass changed the game. When her alliance had a clear 6-5 advantage, she flipped to the other side. And although at the time folks said that the move was stupid, she was going from top 3 in her alliance to the bottom on the other side, that obviously didn't end up being the case. She's at least 4th on the other side, and she'll keep moving up. Cass needs to team up with Wu and Trish to oust Spencer and Tony, and she will be able to make her case, explain her game, to the jury much better than the other 2 will. This could be Cass's game to lose. Why she won't win. Cass is hated by the jury. We've seen her being mocked by Sarah and Morgan, and no doubt those 2 are talking bad about her to the rest of the jury as well. There is nobody on the jury that wants Cass to win, even if there are people who think she deserves it, and there will be 5 people that she is responsible for backstabbing, destroying their game in the process. Spencer, Tasha, Jeremiah, Morgan, and Sarah all know that they could have run the game but for Cass turning on them, and they won't reward her.
And that's 5 votes right there.
Right. All right. So that's Cass. Shall we move on to Boston Strong?
I mean, the one thing I would add to the whole Cass thing is that, she has been given something of a narrator role, and you could see her. I mean, she's a lawyer.
Right.
She could out-talk somebody at the final tribal council. I'd be kind of intrigued to see her try to make her case with a jury that can't stand her.
Yeah. Well, one thing Cass has done incorrectly this whole game, and I know we've talked about this before, is you can create chaos as long as people don't think it's you creating it. So when you create chaos, you want other people to notice the chaos but not assign you to it. On the other hand, what she does is she creates chaos and then goes, I created chaos. That doesn't bode well for her.
No. And I think I liked the idea of hearing her talk as well. To me, her and Spencer would be a great final, even though I think it would be a landslide. But I think those are probably 2 of the better talkers left. I'd like to hear Tony explain to see if he'd be different at the jury or at Final Tribal. But I think Spencer and Cass could really go around in circles about why they should each win and how they play their own game.
Yeah,
what's interesting, though, is when you say they would go around in circles, I find that it's true. Although I think the person who would actually spin himself in circles would be Tony. When you have a final tribal that is usually 2 hours long and you edit it down to 20 minutes to a half an hour, I mean, he is going to contradict himself. He is going to have multiple reasons and excuses for everything that he did, and going to be a hypocrite and say that he was loyal and that he wasn't loyal, but he was loyal.
I never lied.
Yeah, and it would be fascinating to watch that happen.
Yeah. Even when he said I was watching today this show again, and he talked about telling Trish why he voted out Jeffra, was because she swore on this, and swore on this, and just like Tony did.
Yeah.
But she was going to turn on me, so I turned on her first. Right. So she never actually voted against you, but you got her first because you learned that she was eventually going to turn on you.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Trish, Boston Strong. Why she will win. Trish has played a great game. She hasn't controlled Tony. He's backstabbed her twice, but she's kept the rest of her alliance together despite his shenanigans. Trish was the engineer of the Uncle Cliffy ouster, changing the dynamics of the shuffled tribe. Remember, there were 5 brawns on that tribe. It should have been 6 brawns to the merge, but Trish didn't want that. She convinced Cass to flip on her alliance, while Spencer et al. Won't reward Cass for flipping. They will reward Trish for convincing her to do so. She kept her alliance strong after Tony backstabbed everyone twice, and she has the ability to add to that resume a blind side of Tony at Final Four. If she does that and is sitting there at the end with Wu and Cass, the jury has almost no choice. Trish for the win. Why she won't win. If Tony is there or Spencer is there, Trish loses, period. She needs them out to walk away with the million, and that's a tall order. That's what he thinks about Trish. Any comments?
As I usually do. I mean, the one big thing is, and people have talked about this before, but the fact that every exit interview post-merge has people saying, including Tasha this week, wow, what an interesting and compelling game Trish is playing. Didn't know it while we were in the game, but it's interesting to see it now that we're watching.
Right.
And when they don't give you credit in the game, then that means when they were on the jury, they didn't know about it and they didn't see it. How does that person win if they had no idea how well she was holding together that alliance and how well she recovered even though Tony was making moves and she was in the dark? Of course, I'm wearing the tinfoil buff, and maybe this is all just one big disinformation campaign, and that Trish does win, and that all of this Twitter stuff and all of it is just one big, it's like the editing this season being so misleading. It's one big way to just keep us off the scent. I don't know.
And me being somebody that reads conspiracy theories, whether I believe them or not, that almost lines up the idea that they gave it to somebody that didn't deserve it as much as she did, which would not be Cass or Tony or Spencer to me, would be Wu. That they gave Wu the win over Trish. And now they realize, Trish, of course, we're making up things here, but now we're making up Fantasy Survivor. But seeing that Trish played such a better social game, was a little bit more in control than they thought, they just didn't see her work behind the scenes, but they gave it to Wu because they didn't think Trish did enough, because Wu went on an immunity challenge run at the end. Because that's the only way I think Spencer goes and Tony goes, is if Wu wins out.
All right, Stayin Alive. Why he will win. Spencer is everyone's favorite underdog. Though he hasn't played as good a social game as Wu, I just disagree with that. Anyway, the jury wants to see him. Why? Simple. Because the jury is made up of his alliance. He has 4 people sitting there that want desperately to give him the money, because he's the last man standing of their group. If Spencer wins, it's almost like they won. Survivor is an emotional game, and jurors want to vote for people that they were working with. It validates their game, especially when those allies never backstabbed them. He's got Sarah's, Morgan's, Jeremiah's, and Tasha's vote in the bag, no question. And I expect that he'll have LJ's and Jeffrey's as well. If Spencer makes the finals, Spencer wins, period. Why he won't win. If Spencer makes the finals, he wins, period. And everyone knows it, so they won't let him make the finals. The only way Spencer is sitting there at the end is an immunity run, and I don't think he's got it in him. Tony or Wu will beat him at some point, and when they do, he's gone. I disagree. I think Spencer can do an immunity run, and I think there's a good chance Spencer could win this game, because if he's in the end, I don't care who he's beside, he wins.
I don't see Spencer beating Wu 4 times in a row.
I don't
That's
either.
how many challenges are left.
Yeah, but Wu won't be here 4 challenges. He only has to beat him once or twice.
Well, let's take a step back and think through the kinds of challenges that they tend to have at the end these days. There's usually a massively physical one that's often, pieced together, pieces from previous ones, or it's, the big, it's a puzzle, it's steps, it's slides, but there's usually, or at least, I'm thinking back to Philippines here, like there's a challenge in there that is simply stand there, hold this.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that suddenly you take the physicality of Wu and Spencer out of the equation. And, I mean, Scoopin won that one in Philippines where it was just hold that thing, and he even beat Malcolm, got to reset once, and Scoopin still beat him. So, I mean, there are going to be gaps in those challenges which it doesn't favor just the physical. Although many of them are demanding at the end, I think Spencer would have to win. You said 4? Is it 4 challenges?
No, I don't think he'd have
3.
to win 4.
3 more.
3 more.
Yeah, and it's not out of the range of impossible, but I highly doubt it.
Well, since he just won, it would be 4 total. That one and 3 more.
I got you. Yeah. Taking a step back, one thing, well, 2 things. One, Spencer, yes, he's going to win if he's in the final. What I find fascinating about it is that, I mean, just setting games next to one another, the Tony-Spencer battle should be fascinating if they were sitting next to one another. They both have an argument to make. And the fascinating thing to me is that Spencer, to some degree, he'd probably win in a landslide, and he'd do that largely because of the story that he's been handed. Really crappy tribe, beat up at the beginning. That's where people early in the season were talking about, hey, what maybe intentional mat singing makes sense, because if you are down and but you're tight with the people that manage to survive, and then everyone sees you as weak and you can get to the end of the game, then you have this built-in story that you're going to win. The question is, who really played a better game, Tony or Spencer?
Well, I like Tony's game better.
Oh, I agree, because he used Spencer at times.
Well, you could say that, okay, Spencer allowed himself to be used. Right. And there were a couple of times when he used Tony, wound him up a little bit, and pointed him in the right direction. Maybe that's how it was edited, but certainly that's the story they're telling us.
Well, they played the game from two different positions. Tony played the game from controlling, and Spencer played the game from staying alive.
Yeah, well, and that's just it, is that I've made the argument before. One of the fascinating things, there are 3 positions to play this game in, to simplify it: when you're ahead, when you're behind, and when things are pretty even. And Spencer has shown he can play from behind really well. Tony has shown that he can control things really well.
Right.
What happens, I'm always fascinated, it's really the main thing I'm fascinated by when you have a returnee-based season, is how can they adjust their game when things turn against them.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just find it fascinating. If you take the story out of it, although that's impossible, who really played a better game? I don't really have an answer, but I'd have to walk through the game from the beginning. I mean, I'm fond of both of their games, and it would be fascinating to see them sitting next to one another. The problem with the way the game works is that rarely happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right, let's get to Tony, the spshack. Why he will win. By the way, it bothers me. Well, it doesn't bother me, but every time, like, if I happen to listen to another podcast and I hear spshack or chaos cast, why can't they just go, by the way, have you heard that great song? Never happens, though. Never happens. spshack. Why he will win. Tony has played the best game this season. He's controlled the game. Every time he's gone to tribal council, the players he's voted for has been sent home. That means he's getting other players to do what he wants. That's Survivor, and juries respect that. Spencer and Tasha will vote for Tony, and Jeremiah, Morgan, and Sarah will do what Spencer and Tasha do. That's 5 votes right there. Plus, even if Jeffra is too bitter to vote for Tony, and I think she might be, LJ isn't, I think he'll respect Tony's game and reward it. Why he won't win. Tony needs to make it to the end and eliminate Spencer along the way. Getting to the Final 4 is a done deal for Tony, and he can protect another player too if he wants to. That's serious power, but if he chooses to protect someone, he alienates someone else. Tony needs to stay with Trish and Wu and hope that neither sees it as being in their best interest to dump him along the way. Unfortunately for Tony, Trish is playing this game. If she can put her differences with Cass aside, they can and will dump Tony. All right. So that's his thoughts on Tony. David, you got anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'd love to see Tony and Spencer at the end, and it's a matter of who you want to give it to, the guy that's run the game or the guy that's sidestepped every swipe that's come at him and survived the game. It's 2 completely different runs, like you just said. They both played from 2 opposite ends of the spectrum, and who do you give the vote to? And, you know, even though Tony voted you out, take it as a compliment that he voted you out, and at the same time, Spencer, you know, he just keeps surviving.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a coin flip to me at some point.
Yeah. All right. Anything, Andy, before we close out his?
Yeah. No. I mean, I think Tony is playing a heck of a game. The only thing that, I mean, I'm reading the edit too much here, but they're certainly going out of their way to show us a jury that doesn't like him.
Yes, they are.
And the question is, you know, you can see that from 2 angles. Either they're setting us up for the fall, and remember, we talked all at the beginning of the season about how there would be some comeuppance for the crazy game that he was playing, and you know, what might that be? Or the flip side is, okay, they're trying to give us a modicum of doubt heading into it, because if Tony is sitting there at the end and he's sitting there next to Trish or Cass, it's pretty much a done deal for anyone who, you know, watches and thinks about the show. Casual viewers, however, might think, "Oh, that jury must hate him. Look, they've been for weeks now. They've been glaring at him. You know, so he won't win." I mean, you can't discount the casual factor. Right. You know, the casual fans see, what the editors give them, which is one of the things. Just taking a very quick step back, the whole thing with why is Wu's edit so darn positive? Like what he was, because all those comments in there about how, he's played a great social game. We know that's really not true. We know that Spencer and Cass were saying it was really nice to see this side of him on the school visit.
Right, because they never see anything.
Because he's always just been really quiet at camp. That's not a great social game. But he's being edited as this lovable goofball.
Yeah.
Question is why? Is that just to make him a favorable character because otherwise he'd be really boring? Or is it because they need him to be Fabio?
All right. I hope not. But here we go. And with that, I'd like to invite you all to participate in next week's Family Feud game. I'll be asking a series of questions and compiling the answers for Dwaine to see whether he can accurately... No, that was for David, not for me. Will, you made a mistake on your form. Answers for David to see whether he can accurately predict how fans of D&D answered. I've got more than 30 volunteers already, but I'd love to hit 50 or even 100 if possible. It'll take only about 3 minutes of your time. Just hit me up on Facebook, I'm in the D&D group, or on Twitter, @TheGiantNinja. I'll send you a direct message with the questions, send it back to me with your answers, first thing that comes to mind, and you're done. Then tune in next week to find out how well David, I don't know why he wrote Dwaine. He told me it is you, right, David?
I don't know. Maybe he'll flip it and put it on you.
Oh, well. It was originally how well David knows his audience. Well, that's it for now. Happy Mother's Day to all of the moms out there. We love and appreciate you so very much. Later, peeps. Will @TheGiantNinja. That's going to be fun.
I hope so.
We surveyed 100 D&D listeners. The top 5 answers are on the board. All right, y'all. We can't take that long on everybody's. Here we go.
That was, can I just say that was really a really good piece of feedback.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, next we have Mike from Canada.
Should we just read it straight through? Don't stop.
Yeah,
okay.
Yes.
Mike from Canada here. Just a lot of random thoughts to start about Wednesday night's Survivor show. First, Jeff has it so right about Trish. Physically, she looks too weak to even stand up. Time for the survival equalizer to make things right. Voila, we have the special powers food idol. Imagine, if you will, the genius of Trish to find this special food idol right next to her, a la Tony. Then to wait until all the votes are read at the next tribal council, at which she will be given a 30-minute time limit to consume a deliciously prepared meal of all her favorite foods. Tasha, in fact, revealed they just had a bad storm and had not eaten in 2 days due to not being able to start a fire for boiling water, rice, etc. I don't think that's going to happen, but anyway.
But it was fun. It was fun to think.
It's one of those Amazing Race equalizers where everybody shows up for the same fight.
Yeah.
Next, Steve, David, and Dwaine discuss the advantage of Tony hanging on to both idols for next week. In my opinion, he has to. Tony only wins the game, in my opinion, if non-player additional vote Woo is there at 4. Tony can now give the idol to Woo, assuming he doesn't win immunity, and then toss down the SP idol at the end, whether he needs it to or not. Because, as we all know, Tony is a showman.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he'll play both idols? Is this the last tribal council he can play him at this week?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what they led us to believe anyway.
Yeah, so I mean he'll make it a show this week. Looking into the future, common sense would suggest Spencer goes next without individual immunity challenge win. I'm having second thoughts on that, like Steve. Here's what I feel. Last week I gave you the Tony flip-flop formula, and guess what he does this week? He votes against his alliance again. Now, why, you ask, would he do that? Here's the answer. If Tony wants to get anyone out in his alliance, he has to get that third vote, and Spencer will certainly be on board with staying around. So while some think the real action starts with the Final Four, it really starts now. What happens this week sets in motion, A, whether Tony is a smart player or not, and B, just how well and fast the rest are able to guess what he's, being Tony, is going to do. So at Final Four, they can give him the bum's rush. I don't know. I think it's too late in the game to keep Spencer for anything. Just too likable and too good in challenges.
Yeah, just like the editors did a fine job trying to lead us away from the obvious Tasha boot this episode, and they may work overtime to make us think the same thing this week. Certainly, the promos suggest that they're trying to hint that Cass and Trish are at each other's throats, but it's Spencer. Spencer has to win or he's done. I mean, there's no reason at this point for Tony to keep him around. There's no plan that involves Spencer that is, I mean, for all of Tony's paranoia, he really reads people well, and I think he knows that jury would give Spencer the million. He's got to go.
Yeah, they gave us 22 minutes of blindsiding Tony and about 12 seconds of, we could just go with Tony and take out Tasha.
Yeah.
Then it was done.
Yeah.
As indicated on Wednesday's episode, and we have seen this time and again with pretend players, we know Wu is not capable of a big move, and Survivor history shows these types of players are so wishy-washy that if you bring them on board, they will not only mess up, but will likely cost you your chance at $1 million. Tony takes Wu to the end. Does Wu have a chance?
Thought we already answered this. We talked about it ad nauseum.
We compared Tony and Wu?
I think Tony beats Wu.
Yeah, I think hands down. I mean, that's the problem with being the loyal sidekick. The loyal sidekick needs someone else to take out Tony, and then maybe he has a fighting chance. He's not going to take out Tony, and he doesn't have an argument to make against Tony, although he thinks he does. That's one of the fascinating things about so many of these players. Like Cass thinks she has a chance against Tony. Because people don't like Tony. And Wu seems to think that he's better off with Tony because he thinks he's more likable than Tony. He's not wrong in that, but I don't think that's what the jury's going to reward.
Yeah. Yeah, they might not like Tony because of the way he's playing, but they don't like Cass because of who she is. I mean, that seems to be the difference in what they don't like.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to sum it up.
Predictions. If Tony, Trish, Wu, and Cass are the final four, pencil in Trish, yes, with exclamation point, to be the big winner. If, on the other hand, Cass is out next week, pencil in Trish to win Survivor, even over Spencer. If Trish is out next, Spencer wins Survivor.
Wow.
Yep. He's saying Trish over Spencer.
All right.
If Trish is out next, Spencer wins Survivor. Tony, in my opinion, only wins if Cass and Wu are in the final three. He wins because Cass is disliked almost as much as him, and because just hanging out with Guy Wu doesn't get the money for attendance only, and for leeching on to the next Survivor up-and-comer. Thanks for listening, Mike from Canada.
All right, Mike, you are not alone in thinking Trish can beat people. You're just, I don't agree with it, but you're not alone in it. Other people feel that way too.
Maybe with a stick.
No, there are people who think Trish is going to win this thing.
Well, it's funny. For me, there's a fine line between, watching the show and sort of, caring enough to watch secret scenes and reading a lot and listening to podcasts and whatnot. It's another thing. I mean, I wish sometimes I didn't care as much, that I didn't know the stuff. Like every exit interview, these players are saying that they don't know that Trish played such a solid game.
Right.
You hear that over and over again, it just kind of ruins things a little bit. Like, okay, I mean, it's why I've said the last couple of weeks, I keep seeing with Trish the edit of somebody who gets to the end and doesn't get any credit.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like when we watch an episode, we see right after the immunity challenge, all right, it's a done deal. So-and-so won, and this person has to go. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to come up about it. And that's usually either they're going to go or it's going to be completely different from what that person just said. Kind of like when Brenda got a 0 edit until like the 5th or 6th episode from the end. All of a sudden she suddenly appeared back in the game and then she was gone.
Yeah. I just don't see. I mean, again, it's fascinating to me, and it'll be interesting to do a post-mortem on the edits versus how where they ended up. Was a lot of this misinformation or was it accurate? Like, the edit over the last several weeks has tried to give Trish some credit. The question is, why? Is it to make it seem like she's got a credible chance in the end when what we're hearing in post-elimination interviews suggests that she doesn't have a chance? Maybe. But then again, I thought that was the same thing they were doing with Tasha, and that shows what the heck I know.
But it's like if Tony and Spencer go next, the next two out, who's left that's been playing the game? I mean, Trish is probably the most one that we've seen from what our couch edit, from our viewpoint, versus Cass, who's just been kind of got blindsided twice, even though she's still in the game. And then Wu, Mr. Socialite.
Trish has been blindsided also, though.
I know, but she's the one that's come right back to Tony and said, okay, I understand why you did that. And basically he's saying, I did it for us. I just didn't want to get you involved because I knew how you'd be. And whereas Cass is over there saying, you blindsided me once, shame on you. Blindsided me twice, shame on me. I don't want to follow the cult leader. I want to kill the cult leader. Where Trish is saying, okay, you did it for us. It makes sense now. I understand. So.
Well, Trish and Cass will certainly have an argument over whose play was the play.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of interesting to me that this idea that I mean, we all buried Cass after her move. Buried her. Her chances, I mean, I argued then that, it wasn't as bad as everyone was saying, but the general consensus was she has no chance of winning the $1 million now because she flipped. And has anyone ever come back from further? I mean, I guess the one guy who always stands out to me is Chris Daugherty almost got voted out in the first episode because he totally bombed the challenge, and he really should have gone home, and he ends up winning the whole thing. I mean, Cass, that move at the merge, if she ends up sitting next to Trish or Wu, doesn't the jury have to look at her and be like, oh God, oh my God, she's gonna win? and how fascinating that would be. I mean, imagine the jury staring at Cass, Trish, and Wu, realizing if that's the final three or two of those three are going to be fighting for the $1 million. It's like, how do you form questions that are TV appropriate?
And since they're all admitting that they did not see how Trish played, and they kind of know how Wu is not playing, she's the only one that's made the big move that changed the face of the game and put herself in this position.
Yeah.
I almost feel like them saying that they didn't understand Trish had a game kind of is almost a little spoilerish, because if she had been in the final and had an opportunity to, defend herself, she would have talked about the game that she played. And
or if she went to Ponderosa, she might talk about it.
Well, that's just it. I mean, let me just I'm wearing the tinfoil hat. I'm going to say this one thing, and then I'm taking the hat off because, oddly enough, it's a lot hotter than I was expecting.
Microwave, man.
It is aluminum foil,
It is fascinating to me, this idea, maybe because this cast has been so good about not spoilering.
That's true.
And again, I keep feeling these little fingers of like, okay, because they get coached as to what they can and cannot say in those interviews.
Right.
If I'm trying to keep the lid on who's in the final two or final three, and I'm trying to keep people from knowing immediately who it's going to be, do you tell them to keep saying, oh, I didn't know Trish was playing that kind of game?
Well, that's true.
Again, it's because I'm wearing the tinfoil hat.
It's because of the hat.
Yeah, but I don't really believe that. But I find it, because you're right, it is sort of spoilerish that these people are all saying that.
Yeah. Put the hat back on. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, my hair's a mess. I'm sorry, I did a whole bunch of yard work today and didn't have a chance to shower. So.
All right, let's go on. Mike in Cleveland. Hello, Dwaine and David. I think winning the immunity challenge this week actually hurt more than aided Spencer's game, and possibly put the win on the table for my overall Soul Survivor pick preseason, Wu, to now win the game. We know in the recesses of Tony's fascinating mind he fears a girls' alliance, so had Tasha won the immunity challenge, would Tony have voted off Spencer or Cass? I'm thinking it would have been Cass, plus he would have buried that regular idol to cover Wu. Burned that regular idol to cover Wu. Tony would feel comfortable that Trish would just accept this as usual, and Wu's loyalty would have been purchased. Then Spencer is at the final 5 with 2 votes and only needs to flip a finally frustrated Trish or flexible Wu if he doesn't beat Tosh for next week's immunity challenge. As it stands now, Spencer has to win out in the immunity challenges to win the game, and let's not forget Wu has already outperformed him in at least 3 immunity challenges to date. So beating Wu 3 straight times won't be easy. Now Wu, on the other hand, should be celebrating. He is now Tony's most valuable ally and 99.9% guaranteed a Final 4 spot and 80% guaranteed a Final 3 spot. If Wu wins this week's immunity challenge, Spencer is sent packing and only needs to ensure he beats Tony in the Final 4 challenge to get Tony out next. Then he goes to a Final 3 with Cass and Trish, and the great thing for Wu is that's the exact Final 3 Cass and Trish would need for a chance to win also. If Wu loses the immunity challenge to Spencer this week, however, Tony will still need him for the next challenge and would more than likely send Cass home instead. Tony's fall will come at the Final 4 immunity challenge. Whether it's Cass or Spencer, they will beat him if it's a puzzle, and Wu wins if it's physical, and unfortunately nobody with a brain would take Tony to the end except Spencer, who would defeat Tony easily anyways. In a final 3 with Cass and Trish, Wu wins hands down. What do y'all think? Does Wu beat Cass and Trish? We've probably already answered this question, but
yeah, well, we touched on it before, and I mean, that's the toughest combination to call, I think. And it's just a question of walking through the jury and trying to, it's like, do they talk themselves into Wu because they can't stand Cass, or do they give her credit for the only one who played the game?
Yeah. David?
Nope.
Anything?
I agree.
All right. Every juror has stated they didn't realize Trish was even playing the game in their post-show interviews so far. So she isn't winning because she had made a successful argument at Final Tribal. They would have known this. Cass isn't winning because, unknown to her, she is everyone's Russell Hantz and will not be receiving their votes. So that is Mike's argument of why Wu would win that. And by the way, Mike is watching tonight. So here's how I see the jury votes with a Cass, Trish, and Wu final. Sarah, Morgan, and Jeremiah are no doubt about it Wu votes. They all have shared their dislike of Cass and Trish on personal levels. No way they give them $1 million. Jeffra and Tony would probably be Trish votes, and I'll give her LJ's also. Cass will probably get Spencer's vote out of default at best. I doubt he respects either Trish or Wu as players, but if he can't bring himself to vote for Cass, his vote will go to Wu, who did at least twice work with him to blindside his own alliance and defeats Tony in the end. Tasha will also vote Wu. In a secret scene, she questions Trish and Cass on what big move they have made, and they both claim the Cass flip is their big move. In post-season interviews, Tasha states while on the island, she didn't feel Trish was playing the game, and also says Cass's flip hurt her personally because she thought they had developed a real friendship on the island prior to the merge. Ask Boston Rob if people who feel their friendship has been betrayed vote to give you $1 million and or talk to you forever after Survivor's over. I added that, sorry. Like her buddies Sarah and Morgan, she will be voting for Wu, giving him that 4th vote he needs to win. I'm sure Wu's win will not be received well by hardcore fan base, but I would be very happy. Keep up the good work, Mike in Cleveland. Good job, Mike. I think Mike presents a good argument.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I keep hearing the argument, and I understand it, that Tony needs Wu at Final Four if Spencer is still in the game. I hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I believe it insofar as I think Tony believes, and I don't think he's wrong, I think he believes that at Final Four he has to have the necklace. If he doesn't have it, he's going home. And so it's not about keeping the necklace away from Spencer, it's about having it on his neck.
Yeah.
And he can't risk having both Wu and Spencer competing against him in a Final Four challenge.
Yeah.
I don't think he can let himself do that.
This will be the first time Tony has been in a situation in this game where he has to absolutely win to stay in the game, because he will go home.
Yeah, well, and it's also right at the time when the idols are taken away from him. It's the first time he has been idol-less in a long time. And take his paranoia, and add to that he suddenly, he doesn't have anything in the bag of tricks anymore.
Right. Okay. Now we say that and I just said it, but then we go back to Cass last episode saying, "Wow, I need to take Tony to the end. I can beat him." Maybe her total disillusionment will be to Tony's benefit. Maybe she will convince others, "Hey, we need Tony at the end because no one's going to vote for him."
So she's basing it on a social level and not so much a strategic level.
Yeah, well, that's why she changed her vote.
Right.
They were going to try to get rid of him or at least flush out the idol, and then she said, "Wait a second, people don't vote for jerks."
I think that's falling into the edit trap in that they knew that he had 2 idols. And the idea of getting a flushing one, yeah, they talked about it. Yeah, there are confessionals, talking about her saying, yeah, I need to take Tony to the end because he's the jerk. I think they had to ask certain questions to be able to get certain confessionals, so that they had something to work with an obvious Tasha boot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's those leading questions, because I think if you were to ask Cass at that point in the game, rank the people who are left, who do you think you have a chance to beat? Well, the reason she could beat Tony is because he's not liked, but I think she probably feels she has a better chance against. I mean, Tony's not the easiest person for her to beat. I don't think she thinks that. She's too sharp for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the questions that we still don't know the answer to, because they don't want to show it to us. But who does Tony want to sit next to at the end? Who is he afraid of, and who does he think he can beat handily?
I think the only person he's afraid of is Spencer, but I don't even think he's afraid of anybody for the most part. I think he feels like his game is strong enough that he could sit next to most anybody and win.
I think that's the version of him that we're seeing, and it'll be fascinating to talk with him when this is all over. But that's a level of, paranoia is fueled by doubt, and I don't think, we see him being confident, but I don't think that he must have doubts. Like, Spencer could beat me if the jury believes this, this, and this. And he has to have done that with everybody who's left in the game and said, well, maybe the jury could spin this way. And he will. He knows the game. He's going to want to bring whoever is easiest to beat to the end.
Yeah.
And how does he shape that end game? Does he want to sit next to Cass? Does he want to sit next to Trish? Is that why he flipped on them a couple of times, is to take their arguments away from them, because long range he wants to sit next to them at the end? I don't know the answer to these questions, but it's
right.
It's a question of who does he want to sit next to.
Yeah. All right, David, let's go to Shayna.
All right. Hi, guys. I had no access to a computer this week, so I couldn't write my weekly article, but I had some thoughts I wanted to share. Wu had a little bit of a winner's edit in this episode. Jeff repeatedly pointed out Wu smiling during the immunity challenge. He did smile quite a bit.
Yes,
I noticed
he did.
that today. Cass said she really liked Wu. These clips could all be used in the montage the winner gets during the reunion. Spencer fell out of favor for me this week. I hate it when he tries to do a Wu impression. He is not good at it. Wu doesn't wrinkle his forehead and furrow his eyebrows when he talks. And it bothered me when he called the kids little monsters. I know he didn't mean it as in a negative way, but it made the reward feel a little less special to me. I would have rather seen Latasha out there embracing the kids. I love seeing Wu interact with the kids, another clip to include in his winter montage. I wish Latasha had more dialogue in this episode. I hope she returns for another season. She was a great contestant.
Yeah, I like to see Latasha in another season. If they're going to bring people back, I wouldn't mind her being one of them.
And who was it? Will mentioned his feedback about Spencer having the best underdog story. I think Latasha had the best underdog story because she was the nicest person out there from what it seemed like.
Yeah.
He was a little conniving at times, trying to deal stuff with Tony, trying to make him more paranoid if that's even possible.
Yeah.
She was the one playing the better social game.
I was not happy Tasha went home. I had to pick a new overall pick last night or today. Yeah. I'm only going to get 10 points if my winner wins.
Who's your
front office pools. I'll tell you whenever we get to that part of the show.
Well, I think I agree with you, Tasha. She's getting invited back. There's no doubt in my mind. I think
they're going to go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, she's a triple threat. She's television friendly. They always talk about having difficulty with strong, powerful, physical women.
Right.
And she just checks all the boxes. She's definitely.
And her and Spencer would have a much better shot the second time around than Tony would or Cass would, in my opinion, because they both had really good edits, especially Tasha. She's going to come back as one of that's Tasha. We love Tasha. She's going to come back as a super strong person until the merge, and then she's seen as a challenge threat when she starts winning again. But she got a really good edit to come back on. and play with people that have seen her play.
Yep.
Can't you imagine them doing this like major this is the last season of Survivor, and they get back like Richard Hatch, Boston Rob, some of these big, huge Survivor names, and it's just a knockdown drag out for the final. Who's the biggest survivor of them all?
Only if that includes Andy Baker and David Jones, since we would have been on the show by then.
Well, see, I think you're going to end up seeing Survivor Legends will be the last season.
It has to be, yeah. And
that's why you're not going to see the next few seasons. You're not going to see returnees coming back who are of that big a profile, because they're going to hang on to those guys and women for that final Legend season. So returnees are going to be factoring into the next 2 to 4 seasons, but it's going to be it's not going to be those names. It's going to be the Tashas of the world. We're going to see them try to build up a couple more Legends before Legends rolls around.
That'll be a really interesting season of Survivor. And I predict Richard Hatch will win it. All right, let's move on.
That will definitely be a conspiracy that he wins the first and the last season of Survivor.
Yes. Andy will have the biggest tin hat ever in the history of tin hats.
Just wrap my whole body in foil.
Yes. Vance from Utah. Hello, Dwaine and David. I have really enjoyed the addition of Andy Baker to your podcast. He provides excellent insight and yet another point of view, which is what the feedback podcast is all about. There have been several times this season where I have wanted to share my opinion, and as I am thinking about things, boom, it's all of a sudden 7 p.m. Sunday night, and I have missed my shot. But that's all right. I get to listen to everyone else's feedback. I really enjoy your show. Now, just to tell you, if you try to get it in and we see it in time to get it in the show, then we will. But as Sindri will tell you last week, we didn't see that feedback until after the show, and so we didn't get his in. And it was after the deadline. So you can try after the deadline, and you may get in like Will and Shayna did tonight, but there's also a chance you won't. So now on to some observations. I love the immunity challenge this week. It seemed like they had a nice long run to view the items that they had to remember. It seemed like about 50 to 60 yards, just long enough to tire someone out after every pull. I also like the fact that they could only have one pull, then back to view the items. This made the challenge both extremely physical and extremely mental. We know that the challenge lasted at least 25 minutes, probably 35 to 40, and it seemed like they were running back and forth the whole time. Yes. It looked very exhausting, I agree. Now then, should Tony have even competed? With everything the way it was, could Tony have just sat down or walked over to the sidelines, kind of like Richard Hatch during the first season? Think about this. The rest of the survivors only have 1, maybe 2 shots at getting out Tony before the final tribal council. Tony has 2 idols that will keep him in the game. Tony uses one of the idols last week and the other one next week, ensuring his spot in the final 4. These 2 immunity challenges mean virtually nothing to him. The immunity challenge at final 4 and or final 3 mean everything to him. It would be a mistake for almost everyone to be sitting next to Tony in the end. All right, so Vance, this is why I don't think he should ever not participate, because that puts a sour taste in everybody's mouth. If you just go, I don't need to participate, they want to see you play the game, and if you didn't play the game because you're like so confident, then they're not gonna go for that.
I think they were voting out Philip and Karamoan anyway, but the fact that he did sit out that challenge, knowing that he wasn't worried about going home, I think just added to him going home that night with all those idols being played. But I don't think it's in Tony's nature to sit out anything.
No.
I don't think he could ever do that.
No, me neither. Which brings me to my next point. Do you really think that bitter juries exist in modern Survivor? Yes. They are bitter. Anybody else disagree?
Mm-mm.
No.
We've had some softer juries, but yeah, no. Someone wrote a comment on my column this week, and I couldn't agree more. That by their very nature, there's going to be some bitterness on juries.
Yes.
And the end factor is that yes, a 4-person can decide whether or not a lot of that bitterness pours out at the final tribal council, but none of them are completely comfortable, and part of that is producerial prodding, where they want them to ask hard questions.
Oh, sure.
And make them uncomfortable. But I hear the point that maybe they're a little bit softer now because the early ones were so scathing, but I still think it's a really uncomfortable couple of hours.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they do, hence the Natalie White win in Survivor Samoa. But I think most Survivor players can respect most moves that are made. The game is outwit, outplay, outlast. What do you think? Thanks, Vance in Utah. I think if you make a jury member bitter at you, then that's part of you not playing well enough. You should have played well enough so they aren't as bitter at you.
Well, that's also what the final tribal council is for, is to explain what you did, why you did, and hope that you can get them out of that. But to every degree, you're right. Somebody gets voted out, I'm going to be ticked every day I'm sitting there eating my steak and lobster from Ponderosa that I'm not in the game anymore.
Yeah. But it really depends on the jury member. If I was a jury member, I would try to take the final 2 or final 3 and really evaluate who outwit, outlast, and outplayed, and I would try to take all 3 into consideration, even if the person that voted that got me out, or even if the person that I think did the best, I just really didn't like very much. It's a game. Right? It's like a game of Monopoly. It's like a game of football. It's not personal. It's a game. And so I would award them the win for that. And then outside of the game, I'd be like, hey, great game. I hated you during the game, but you want to go get some steak.
Imagine.
So, here, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. A couple of things. One, 39 days is a long time. And $1 million is a lot of money, and wanting to have faith that they're going to actually spend the money wisely, and what am I enabling by giving the $1 million? That I think it was Steve in our last collective conversation was pointing out. In the end, they tend to give the money to the person that they like.
Yeah.
That it doesn't necessarily. I mean, we all say that. Okay. I mean, Lord knows that if I were to play, I'd want to be able to have that clarity and say who played the best game. Let me respect that great game. But emotion is a part of it. It's not Monopoly. It's not football. This is $1 million.
Well, I know.
And it's over 39 days where people will hesitate to. I mean, if Cass rubs them the wrong way, they will struggle with giving her $1 million simply because of who she is, not because of a game that she played. Same with Tony. People will hesitate, and it's. I mean, yeah, the social game is part of it, and that's what makes people, I guess, like you in the end. But it's not simply based on strategy. It's those emotions are a huge part of it. So, and I wonder, just taking one more step back, that it'd be interesting to really look at, and I haven't done this breakdown, if the juries that do reward really good gameplay, if those are more often than not seasons that are wrapped around returning players. Yeah. Because I think versus newbies tend to get angrier because this is their one shot.
Yeah.
And the returning players, it's like, have respect for the game that I played, particularly when there's a bunch of them in there. They know how hard the game is. They've all done it before. They're all hoping that they get to do it again, and have reason to believe they might, since they already got invited back again. And that they can take that additional step back and say, you know what, I had to go through the decompression last time. I have more perspective on the game, and I understand what it is to play a great game. And this person outplayed me, so it's not emotional. I don't know if that's the case, but I wonder if that's what a look back would tell us.
Yeah, because Tony sends everybody to the jury and they're bitter, whereas Tyson sends everybody to the jury and they're respectful because he's smart enough to do it and he jumped before them. Now, we talked about the jury being affected by who shows up, whether it's a new foreman or not. Imagine Cass going to the jury this week in tears because she got in a fight with Trish. She had it out with Tony, and Tony ended up organizing her vote. She shows up upset about it, and the jury looks at her and like, huh, we'll go Tony. And then imagine Wu showing up at Ponderosa, also upset because Tony was going to take me to the end. I don't know what happened. We didn't have any. I don't know where it went wrong, but he sent me here. And then Tony's the bad guy. So I mean, it's every person that shows up at the jury. Spencer shows up is like, man, I made it this far, but I just couldn't get past that group. You know, I just couldn't break into that group. I've been fortunate so far, but that's how I see Spencer getting there. Tasha could be a little bitter, but she saw it coming. She even said it. I knew I was on the block ever since I started winning. But, you know, it could depend on who Tony sends there next. You know, send Cass, and they're going to laugh at Cass and smile at Tony. Send Wu, and they could comfort Wu and be mad at Tony. So it could depend on every person that shows up at Ponderosa.
Well, and I mean, one thing while you were saying that, I just had this image of Cass sort of, you know, taking their, you know, very harsh ridicule, but then saying, look, here's what went down, and then she proceeds to lie to them and tell them all kinds of horrible things. I mean, there's no rules against lying at Ponderosa.
No, would a jury member do that? Come on.
And think about it, Cass likes to be in control, and if she's on that jury, she's going to want to dictate who ends up winning the money. She's a lawyer, she's relentless, she would talk logically, and she would probably, you know, eviscerate the people she wanted to eviscerate. It would be fascinating.
Yeah.
I still say Survivor is a game. Just like Monopoly in football, it's a game. I know people get emotional.
Not the way you play Monopoly.
Well, people get emotional, and sometimes Monopoly feels like it takes 39 days.
Go get your jewelry, honey. Go get it, because you owe me some money. Boardwalk is not free.
That's my point. All right, let's get to the CBS Express teaser for the next episode, Straw That Broke the Camel's Back.
Castaways scale new heights, which sounds like a challenge, as they battle for a guaranteed spot in the Final Four. Meanwhile, friends become enemies when one castaway overhears plans for her eviction, and Tony comes up with a strategy for his special immunity idol.
All right, so who are the friends that become enemies? It's obviously a woman.
Sounds like Cass and Trish.
But were they friends?
They've kind of been in cahoots.
Well, yeah, they have been kind of, haven't they? Yeah. Boy, that's
she's the one. Her and Jeffrey got her to come over, so I would think so.
That's gonna be a fun argument.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're going to be fighting over, you know, who made what move. But from what we have been led to believe, that it's going to be someone overhears the other one talking about who's going to get voted out before whom.
Right. So they'll argue.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's just, you know, you just wonder. I mean, Cass likes to stir people up. If she's
He's going to keep pushing Trish and pushing Trish. Trish could finally go, I'm going to cut you. I'm going to cut you. I mean, because you can just watch. I mean, you can even see in one of the CBS pictures, Cass just sitting there in her stance, like, go for it, have fun. I'm just going to keep pushing your buttons every time you say something.
Yep.
Cass likes it. Cass loves it. She loves the chaos and she loves the arguing. So.
Yeah, well, and I think, I mean, this is, again, me just reading tea leaves, but I don't. Have you seen the pictures of the challenge?
No, I have not looked at them yet.
Yeah, they're CBS press photos, so I'm not leaking anything here.
No.
It's incredibly physical. It's multi-stage.
Awesome.
It's built for Wu and Spencer, and I think I'm just going to put my money on Spencer now. I mean, if those two women are fighting, it's because Spencer has the necklace, and people are talking about who's going to go.
Yeah.
And it'll just, like you said, it's Cass pushing buttons, and you know, and you know, making sure that she's not going to be the one who's targeted to show Trish out of control. But I don't know. I still think I'm still willing to. I think he's going to get Wu gone if Spencer wins, but I've been wrong pretty much every week this year. So
there you go. All right, the D&D Survivor Challenge.
We'll do this real quick because I want to hear Andy's picks for this week.
Yes.
I think he already got them.
Who got how many points?
Spencer got 9. Tasha got 5 on her way out. Trish got 3. Wu got 4. My Cass got 9, and Tony only got 8.
Oh, I'm sorry.
With 2 idols, he only got 8. Yeah, I guess that's all he got.
Well, so who's winning? Am I still beating you?
Oh yeah. All
right.
It's 266 to 219.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna need quite the miracle to finish this off.
Yeah. By the way, after we get off the air, I gotta tell you what my son did tonight. Let's just say family games aren't what they used to be when they were 4 and 5.
All right.
Yeah, this will be for the YouTube viewers. All right, let's get to fun office pools. Go for it, David.
Who wins immunity this week? Cass, Spencer, Tony, Trish, or Woo?
I said Spencer.
Spencer.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that what you put, or are you doing your picks right now?
No, I did my picks earlier.
All right.
I just think it's going to throw this. That's what the season needs. It needs a little more strife going into it.
Yeah.
Who wins the reward challenge?
I put Spencer.
I put Woo.
Do we know what the reward challenge is?
Is it the family visit?
No.
What? No family
Jeffrey
visit.
said she just missed the family visit.
What? What? Don't say that. She did?
Yeah,
What?
she said that. She found out she just missed it or something.
Well, that ain't cool to tell us, because now there's no indication there's a family visit.
No, there isn't going to be a family visit.
There isn't one? Okay.
I think they were talking about there being a family visit, but I mean, if they haven't had it now, they're not going to.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't see it this late.
No, they would have
I
teased
thought
it for this week, and they're not going to do it at 4. So.
Yeah. All right, I picked Woo for the reward challenge.
Yeah, and Andy, who do you think is going to win reward, even though we don't know what the reward challenge is?
Oh, God.
Nope, he's not playing. Sorry. But you're right, he would.
Yeah. I'll gosh. I'm tempted to go with somebody totally random. I just have no idea who's got even potential.
I don't know how random you can be with Trish or Cass.
I'll say Spencer.
There you go.
I'll give a double dip to Spencer.
There you go. All right.
And
you
who
want to know who my new overall pick is, David? You want to know who my
first
new
tell
overall...
me who your points are on this week.
I put all 20 points on Cass. She's going home. 20 points on Cass.
I'm putting all 20 on Trish.
All right.
I think she loses out in that fight because Tony wants to keep Cass around.
Yeah. Andy, if you had 20 points to disperse among people, how would you disperse them?
I would put them all on Woo. I'm just gonna.
All right. My new overall pick to win Survivor.
Spencer.
Spencer.
Wow, what a surprise.
What?
Oh.
Hey, my original pick of Tosh did really well.
Yes, she did.
Applause
She
to
was
her.
much better than we thought she'd be.
That's right. No, she did much better than you thought she would do. Don't put me in your lack of faith camp. I thought she was going to do really well. Thus, I put her there. I do not have a crazy theory. What, Andy?
No, I was just going to say, I think in my second preseason column, my first one I had Tasha winning. My second one, I think I had her 5th, so I think I got pretty close with her. I can't say that I got really close with many others, but I'll get her for that one.
Yeah. So, what was I going to tell you? Oh, I don't have a crazy theory for next step, and I did not write a song parody for this week. I think Stayin Alive ought to stay out there a little bit longer. Sure. By the way, I've not gotten a call from CBS, so I do not think I will be invited to the finale to play or sing any of my parodies.
As we go to commercial, we're going to listen to Dwaine singing Stayin Alive.
Well, they could have, but no. Not even spshack. It's all right.
Then they'd have to pay money to get the songs out there.
Not to me, man. Just let me go on there. Just promote the show. I want more people to watch and listen to Survivor Talk with D&D. You can follow us on Twitter at Survivor_Talk. You can follow David at David_STWDD. You can follow the Spinster at Get on Survivor. The Spinster. The Baker. Sorry. Andy Baker.
Spinster. Come on. We want him to come back now.
You can follow Andy Baker.
Spencer and I are buds now because he commented on the last column and said it was solid.
Oh, there you
after
go.
ripping every column up until that point. So I took that as a good sign.
Well, I won't tell you all the avenues I had to go through to get Spencer to listen to Stayin' Alive, but he did finally listen to Stayin' Alive, and he liked it. Or at least he was gracious on Twitter. So,
All right, then.
there you go. So hit the website, survivortalkwithdnd.com. Up on top, there's like links to other websites. There's the support. There's all kinds of other stuff that you can go to. Colton's countdown. You can see what Colton thinks about the final people that are here, and do all that on our website. Thanks again for listening, everybody. I don't have any final words. David, do you have any final words?
My Survivor by the Slice will be out tomorrow with a special guest joining me for the rankings.
I didn't think you were doing it this week.
Yeah, because I invited the guest and they came through like they said they would. I'm going to do mine as well, and I'll have it out tomorrow.
You are just woo.
I'm telling you.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna.
Well, I've been sick all weekend. So
I hate my blog. I love my blog. All right.
It's not a blog.
I know how that is.
Okay, it's not a blog. I hate my what
non-blog.
My non-blog. Oh well. All right. Any final words, Andy?
No, thanks for having me on. It was fun to hang out the whole time this time.
That's right. So everybody, that's all I've got. Thanks for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, we got a little bit of D&D after show, just a little bit of me telling you my story. And that's all I got. How about you, Dave?
I'm good.
All right. See you, everybody.
See ya.
Well, you can tell by the way I play this game, I am really smart. I put you to shame. Tony's loud, who's out to lunch? I've been on the outs, but I play the hunch. You know it's alright, it's okay. I'll let you see another day. They can try to get me out, but they don't know what I'm about. Whether Tony's talking or whether we was falling, I'm staying alive, staying alive. I know he has an idol cause he brought her down to tribal, but I'm staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive. Well, now I get Trish, I really do, but I just cannot get this woo. He follows Tony everywhere, sticks to him like lice on hair. You know it's alright, it's okay, I'll let you see another day. They can try to get me out, but they don't know what I'm about. Whether Tony's talking or whether we was falling, I'm staying alive, staying alive. I know he has an idol cause he brought her out of tribal, but I'm staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive. I ain't going nowhere. Survivor's my game. Spencer is my name. I ain't going nowhere. Spencer is my name. Staying alive. Well, you can tell by the way that I'm still here. I ain't going home, no need to fear. Trish is next, and then it's Woo. Then Cass, I'm coming after you. And then the next day, it's okay. Tony will be on his way. He won't try to understand his paranoid effect on man. Whether Tony's talking or whether we was falling, I'm staying alive, staying alive. I know he has an idol cause he brought it out of tribal, but I'm staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive. I ain't going nowhere. Survivor's my game. Spencer is my name. I ain't going nowhere. Spencer is my name.